Hello everyone, this is Satej and I'm going to give you a basic overview of the inventory and stores management process. This tutorial is intended for beginners in the area of process consulting and internal audit. I'm going to take you through the end-to-end inventory management process typically seen at stores and warehouses, and I'll also take you through the key stakeholders for any such review that you might undertake. As always, I would like you to keep in mind the 6 questions that you always need to ask your stakeholders so that you have adequate understanding of the process. Who, what, when, where, why, how. Always ask these 6 questions, and the answers to these 6 questions will ensure that you've done a proper walkthrough. So let us look at what the inventory and stores process includes. So I have taken a benchmark of some of the warehouses and stores which I have seen in my career, typically at manufacturing locations or typical warehouses handling consumer and manufacturing goods. So if we look at it, there are 3 buckets in which the operations at any stores are carried out. So the first and foremost responsibility of any stores or warehousing function is to ensure that the stocks or the goods of the company are safeguarded. So this includes inward movement of stock. Once the goods are inwarded, you are storing them in your warehouse, so the overall warehousing of the goods. And these goods would essentially need to move out of the store's function. So it would either be issued to the manufacturing line or these would be transferred outside of the stores or the warehouse. So inward, warehousing, and outward. So these are the 3 things or 3 activities that would happen at any warehouse or any stores. So let us look at each of these buckets in detail. So we've discussed in our P2P area as to how a purchase order would get raised and goods would be delivered by vendors at the warehouse or the stores. So the first point of entry for goods at our warehouse or factory would be the gate entry. Now, gate entry happens to be the first and foremost physical control because this is the first point of contact between the vendor's vehicle and the company. The gate records need to be absolutely perfect. Gate records are typically maintained by security guards where they would either have gate entry systems provided or still most of the companies also use manual records. So they would have a manual gate register which records which vehicle has moved into my premises, at what time was the vehicle carrying an invoice, the invoice number would be noted, the value would be noted, what is the material that is being carried by such vehicle would be noted. So the gate register would be the first point of entry of any goods movement inside my factory or my warehouse. At a basic level, what we need to understand is that any inward and outward movement of goods has to be recorded at the gate. So that becomes a very preliminary control. Once the gate entry has happened, the goods would move to the inspection zone. So if these happen to be any kind of bulk materials, they would go in for a weighment. So most factories or most warehouses would also have a weigh bridge setup where they would weigh in the vehicles that are coming in. Both the gross weight and the tare weight would be taken. Difference of the gross and tare would actually tell you what is the total weighment of the consignment which has come in. So the total weighment would be recorded on the weighment slip, and on the basis of that there would be inspection of the material. A cursory quality check would be performed to check if the quality conforms with the documented purchase order quality or the make of the goods that have been ordered. On that basis, a GRN would get posted. So GRN would get posted on the basis of the delivery documents that have been provided by the vendor and upon successful weighment and inspection of the consignment. Now once the goods have been received, they have to go to their respective locations within the warehouse. If these are bulk materials, for example something like, say, maybe cement, sand, aggregates. These would have certain defined and designated areas or silos in which the unloading would happen. If these are of the nature of equipments, stores and spares, they would have their own designated areas within the warehouse. Either they would have their shelves or other storage locations defined. So the store's personnel would accordingly direct such material to their respective locations, and then they would ensure that the storage of such material is happening in accordance with policy that has been defined by the company or in line with the good warehousing practices as might be prevalent in the industry. When it comes to regulated industries like pharmaceuticals, you would have certain standard protocol that needs to be followed. At the receipt process, I have done gate entry, which has been done by the security guards. Then the bulk goods have been weighed on the weighbridge, or they've been counted if they are received in boxes. They've been inspected to check if the quality is in line with what we wanted. On that basis, the GRN has been posted by the store's personnel, and then the goods have been moved to their respective storage locations to ensure that they have been warehoused properly. As part of warehousing, what is also important to see is whether the storage conditions that are being provided are optimum for the goods that are being held. For example, if you're holding any kind of agri commodities, for example, something like sugar, which is very hygroscopic, you cannot store it in a place that has moisture. Similarly, you probably cannot store any inflammable goods near any of the electrical points. The next piece is issuance of the goods that are being held at the warehouse. We have to understand that the store's function is essentially controlling the material. They are holding this material received from vendors till such time it would be required for manufacturing or for trading. So let us follow the first sub-process here, which is looking at the consumption issue of materials. So this process would be followed for raw materials, packing materials, any kind of semi-finished goods or work in progress goods. So typically what would happen is whenever a new manufacturing run is taken, which means that my user department is going to prepare a batch tomorrow morning, there would be a requisition that would be raised by the user, which would tell the store's manager that the user department has asked for X amount of raw material. Basis this requisition, this would be a material requisition, the store's executive would issue such material according to the quantity as requested by the user, and this material issue entry would be posted and the consumption would accordingly hit that particular cost center. So this is the process which would be followed for materials that are going to be consumed in any of my manufacturing processes. If that material that is being held by the stores is not going to be consumed but is going to be essentially transferred, which means that either it is a finished goods which is moving outside my factory to any of my other warehousing locations, or if my stores and spares material are being sent out for repairs, or any of my assets are being transferred between warehouses. So from one warehouse I am sending my assets to some other warehouse. All these would be addressed using the gate pass control. So a gate pass essentially is a document which stores is issuing, validating the movement of goods outside the company's warehouse or company's factory. Now, a gate pass can either be returnable or non-returnable. What does that mean? So, if I'm transferring assets from warehouse 1 to warehouse 2, I'm not expecting those assets to come back from warehouse 2 to warehouse 1 again, which means that for warehouse 1, these goods are being sent on a non-returnable basis. I'm not going to receive them again. On the other hand, if I am suppose sending my equipments for repair from warehouse 1 to a job worker or to a vendor who's going to be fixing that equipment for me and sending it back to me, it means that I am sending something on a returnable basis. So therein I would raise a returnable gate pass. So please try and understand the difference between returnable gate pass and non-returnable gate pass. It is quite important from a control perspective. So if I'm sending out any goods outside of my factory or my warehouse, assuming that they are never going to come back, I will issue a non-returnable gate pass. If I'm issuing any goods for say repair or say for temporary basis, and I know that these are going to be returned to my factory, I would issue a returnable gate pass. So that is why a returnable gate pass and non-returnable gate pass are different. Why this control is important? Because if I've issued something on a returnable basis but have still not received it, say after 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months, it is a loss to the company. That is the reason why a returnable gate pass control is very critical. So let us see what happens when a gate pass is issued. So once a gate pass is issued, it has to be authorized both by the stores as well as by the user department who's currently holding that particular equipment or asset. It would get classified as a returnable, non-returnable, and then there would be a gate out entry. So remember how we discussed the gate entry at the time of inward. Similarly, there would be a gate outward entry, and this would be recorded in a register which is kept with the security guards. Now then it would go to the job workers, and once repaired, the job worker would return that material to us. At that time, I would knock this entry off against the returnable gate pass that was issued. So this is as far as any kind of issue process is concerned. Next activity that would happen at any stores or warehouse is the physical verification activity, and this is very critical from a valuation standpoint, because as you are aware, inventory is valuated and carried in the books. So a physical verification is the ultimate control if someone wants to verify if the inventory as being reported in the books is accurate or not. Now mind you, whenever inventory reporting in books takes place, there are two aspects. One is the quantity, the second one is the value. Quantity into value would give me the total inventory holding for the company. From a store standpoint, the quantity is very critical for them. The only metric for them should be the quantity that is being held. That is the reason why a robust physical verification process carried out across all warehouses, and this should be two-pronged. Firstly, the warehousing team themselves should be conducting periodic physical verification of all the material codes that they are holding, that all the entries are being posted, they have been accounted correctly, and in case of any kind of pilferage or loss, such items would be highlighted. So physical verification control, either on a cycle basis or on a quarterly basis for 100% of the items held, is absolutely necessary. Now this can be done by the warehousing team internally, or it can be done externally with the help of consultants. But a physical verification reporting is very critical, because that would help you understand if the goods that are being off accounts are actually existing at your warehousing location. So any kind of excess or loss reporting would be an outcome of the physical verification process that is being conducted, and on the basis of that, any inventory adjustment that needs to be done would take place post verification and authorization by the accounts team. The stores team cannot unilaterally go and increase or decrease stock. Also, what you would see is at most warehouses and stores, the scrap management process would also be handled by the stores guys. So any kind of material, be it packing material, be it any kind of scrap that would be generated at the manufacturing facility, the liquidation of such items would be conducted by the stores personnel, of course in conjunction with the controlling teams, which would be the accounts team or the HO teams. This is an overall picture of what all would happen at any warehouse or any stores. So to summarize, the stores is handling receipts, the stores is handling issues of material, and the stores is in charge of safeguarding all the materials that are being held with them. Now let us look at who are the various stakeholders involved in this process. So of course, master data team, as you've seen, for the material code creation, because ultimately the hygiene of your stock statement would depend on how well you have defined the material codes and how well you've defined the storage locations for these codes. So it is absolutely necessary for you to have good hygiene and good control on the master codes for each of the materials. What we normally see is that there would be different codes assigned to different types of materials. So for example, if you have a raw material, it would have a different series. If it is a packing material, it would have a different series. And then there would also be various storage locations. So if you have a storage location which is, say, under quality inspection, you would not be able to issue any materials from there. But if you have an unrestricted storage location, you would be able to issue the materials which lie. Of course, the warehouse and stores in charge would be the guys who are primarily responsible for safeguarding the inventory, as we have looked at in the previous slide. And then the accounts team would come into the picture whenever any inventory valuation, any adjustments or provisions are to be done, and wherever scrap sales have to be recognized, and the collection from scrap sales is to be recognized. This is the picture that I can give you as far as the inventory management and stores process is concerned. Of course, you have to apply this understanding to the particular client or industry setup that you would be reviewing. But at an overall basis, receipt, issue, and safeguarding of inventory would be the key takeaways from the stores management process. That's all from my side. Thank you so much.